Abstract brainwaves, game genie in a beanie. We ain't on the same stage, leveled up. The epitome of technique, can't survive in my current thought.
Other yellow hat guy here, back with another video, and let's talk Venom. Let There Be Carnage, also known as Venom 2. So this movie had a crazy history, okay? It went from October being the release date, October 2021, to we're going to delay it, move it to January 2022, and then it was moved back to an original time slot. I think initially it was going to be like around Halloween or right before it, but they moved it to October 1st. And that was great because, you know, you look at this symbol here, Halloween is the time for that, right? Now, the great thing about this movie was they played to the strength of Woody Harrelson and Tom Hardy, where they tried to show how both of them were similar but different. You expect them to both be similar in mindset, but they're not. They played Tom Hardy as likable as possible. He didn't even come off as like an anti-hero, whereas the symbiote itself was really the anti-hero. It tried to reason with it, so it tried to justify why it did what it did, which was, you know, consuming the human hosts, you know, draining them until there was nothing left of them, really. Versus Cletus Cassidy, who was the serial killer who tried to get empathy and say, hey, look, no, I also had stuff going on, and that's why I'm the way I am, with a symbiote that was really nothing like, well, I won't say nothing like, but didn't have the empathy that Venom symbiote did, or Eddie symbiote did. Symbiote, however you want to say that. So without giving too much away, because I feel like the gist of it, the allegories they were trying to go for, or the similarities, I should say, were evident within the first 45 minutes. This is a short movie, an hour and a half, so it was action-packed, you know, and it had self-deprecating humor all the way through. So if you don't like that kind of humor, it might not be the movie for you. They try to make Eddie Brock this lovable loser, but those of us who have a comic background know he's a little more than lovable. He's had his own pain and anguish and stuff he's had to deal with, some tough breaks, and they don't really throw that at you in either of these two movies. Main reason because there's no backstory with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Daily Bugle. If anything at all, is very limited. They do show police officer Mulligan in here. Mulligan, who we'll get to him in a little bit, but he's on the trail of what Cassidy's been doing, and he's trying to work with Eddie because Eddie's the only guy that Cassidy really wants to talk to, because he, you know, sees a little bit of himself in him. There are clues led out to where Cassidy's like, you know, this is why I want to talk to you, and I'll tell you my life story before, you know, anybody else, as long as you agree to print something for me. So he prints this, you know, little blurb for him and gives a life story to him, but not really a full life story. He kind of talked to him in riddles. But the symbiote comes through and helps Eddie deduce what he was really talking about. And this kind of shows, hey, this is where all these bodies were. These are what connected him to crimes, more crimes, if anything else. And Eddie was back in the good graces of the media. But he was trying to deflect and keep his, you know, sins from the past, you know, past movie, from following him. Unfortunately, Mulligan was on his tracks, and Cassidy had one more trick up his sleeve. He's like, hey, look, since you figured out something I wasn't really trying to give to you, or at least indirectly was giving to you, how about you at least see when they execute me? Because at this point they were going to execute him, you know, lethal injection. But before that happens, Cassidy just mouths off to him, letting him know what kind of person he knows Brock to be. Like, he did his homework, and the symbiote had enough, lashes out, and Cletus bites Eddie. At that point where he bites him, that's when the transfer of the symbiote from, Eddie to Cletus came into play. And by transfer, I mean this is when Carnage is born. Now, it's a little bit different in the comics because Eddie was actually in prison with Brock, or Eddie was on prison Brock. Eddie was in prison with Cletus. So from then, that's when there's a transfer where the symbiote kind of detaches and has its offspring, yada yada. So that out of the way, they did their own thing where it was like a blood transfer, and during the lethal injection, it kind of activated Carnage, But they strike a deal with each other to say, hey, you help me free the love of my life, I'll help you get even with Venom. So hats off to Woody Harrelson. He did a tremendous job. He did much better than expected. A lot of times you see these Hollywood types come in and you're like, yeah, they're just there to attract, viewers. Because like, well, Woody Harrelson couldn't mess it up. Guy from White Man Can't Jump, Zombieland, he can't mess this up. And he didn't. But you also want somebody that kind of looks the part and, everything. One of the things that I'm sure somebody's already complaining about was they're like, oh, I wanted Shriek to be more gothic. I wanted her to look white, yada, yada. I don't know if her being white is, as relevant to her character like it would be Black Panther, being black. But so far I haven't heard anything like that. But for me, I was like, a little bit of me was like, they couldn't have got somebody that looks like, her. It wasn't that hard. But maybe they just wanted a diverse cast. But nonetheless, she did with what you could with Shriek. I really don't know of her personality enough, comic book wise, to say that was a spot on representation or not. But they did show, hey, her eye has a scar over it, where as a kid maybe I thought that was some kind of tattoo or something. But they did reference that she's a mutant. She mentioned she has a mutation, so she's really the only person that has some kind of powers. And the interesting thing about her power is that it's counterintuitive to Venom and Carnage. She can shriek, and they're sensitive to sound and fire. Those are their two, pronounced weaknesses. So a battle ensues, and I won't get into all of that. But if I haven't spoiled anything already, at this point in the video, you probably want to pause it, go see the movie, and come back, because we're going to talk the after credits. So, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so if you're still here watching, I will say this. The battle goes as expected. It's not like Venom was going to lose this thing, though he's, pushed to the limits. All in all, Eddie learns why he needs Venom and vice versa. And that's what keeps them going, whereas Carnage doesn't have that same, relationship with Cletus. It's kind of, hey, you help me, I help you, and then I really don't need you for anything else. Like, Cletus is going to be a killer regardless, whereas Eddie is not Eddie's not hunting down people to say, yeah, let's off this person because of whatever. It's just pretty much a compromise where he's like, hey, look, if they're bad people, nobody's going to go looking for them. Do your thing. We are Venom. Where it's not a we are Carnage, it's I am Carnage. And that's kind of the difference there, the big difference. So as the movie wraps up, you have Mulligan kind of putting 2 and 2 together, saying, every time there's some kind of disturbance or something, people go missing, we trail it back to you, Eddie. And with Anne's help and her new fiance, who I didn't really mention because, save something for you to see the movie, they reluctantly help Eddie on behalf of Venom. Anne in the last movie became She-Venom. She got to see everything and understand what was going on with Eddie and why he was, having changes, both in his career and just not really being the best boyfriend that he could be, best fiance. That out of the way, she agrees to help him reconnect, and she unfortunately gets caught up in the mix of what both Shriek and Cletus are trying to do. Shriek now free. They want to get back at Eddie. Best way to get back at Eddie is to go after Anne. At least that's what the plan was. If you get Eddie, with Anne, you're more likely going to get Venom as well. So that plan that they put together worked out, and it all ensues in this climactic battle, or I don't know, I would say it was climactic. Some might say, oh, it should have been more intense, but I think it was pretty intense. But at the end of it, you see Mulligan, who everyone kind of forgot about him, but his eyes turn blue. And what that's alluding to is another character called Toxin. So check out Marvel Comics for that, more information on that character. But that symbiote is more powerful than Venom and Carnage. It can do things that neither one of them can do, at least at that time. That out of the way, that's not really the end of the movie. That was kind of like after everybody's kind of done their own thing, we're showing you this. Then there's what was rumored to have been happening actually happened. And I'm trying to pick my words carefully because, well, Spider-Man MCU is connected with this Sony division. It's finally happened. If you haven't been watching Disney Plus, you probably need to catch up on both what's happened in Loki and WandaVision to understand what really happened here. There's a scene here where they're on vacation, and in the midst of Venom actually explaining to Eddie what's actually going on, the symbiote explained to Eddie what's actually going on with his past and what he's capable of and this and that, a light just appears. And it looks like it could be either from Doctor Strange or Wanda. It's a Nexus level event that's happened. But what it's confirming here is that Venom is now part of the MCU via, this Spider-Man connection. Suddenly he's in a new hotel room, and not the one they were staying in, and on the television is J. Jonah Jameson in his Alex Jones conspiracy theory type news broadcast saying, hey, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, he's a menace, blah, 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 blah. And you see the symbiote lick the face on the screen of Tom Holland's Peter Parker. So had I not already known about it in advance because I read the spoilers, I would have been like, yeah, but I was still like, yay, because it at least confirmed that was true. So you have rumors saying, hey, this could mean Venom and No Way Home. Who actually knows? But at some point, we can pretty much conclude that the symbiote is going to make contact with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and you'll have this logo finally being something that they can merchandise because, well, without a direct connection to Spider-Man, there's no reason to have this on the symbiote at all. So we'll see what they do going forward. If Venom is not seen in No Way Home, Venom 3 is going to happen, and it'll likely show them team up. One of the themes was lethal protector. That's what symbiote was looking at it like, hey, how can I be a good guy and not mess up your life? I can do that by, we're protecting people and I eat the bad guys. You'll get off my back and I help you, be better than what you are. That was the compromise they made there. But Lethal Protector, that series, shows who? Venom teaming up with Spider-Man. So let's expect that to happen. Maybe Toxin shows up and they team up against him. Who knows what's going to happen at this point, but that's kind of my comic awareness, what it's telling me is going to happen. Initially on Facebook, I gave this an 8.8 out of 10. I'm still kind of feeling like an 8, maybe, right at an 8 out of 10, maybe not any higher than that, but fresh out of the movie, I think maybe I was a little biased because of the end credit scene. That's probably the best one of any of the movies we've had so far. You have the Thanos is up there for what it was because nobody was expecting that. But this right here, giving you Spider-Man and Venom, opening the door. The only thing that could be better than that is Spider-Man, Daredevil, Spider-Man, Deadpool, and all of that is likely in the works. So we'll see what happens there. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Love you guys. Hope to see you in the next one. Other Yellow Hat Guy out. We are Venom.
Captain Sensation.